So let's move on to Prop 21. Let's talk about some rent control.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts here?
Prop 21. Well, there's so much to talk about Prop 21. First and foremost, I think it's almost comical that for the first time in my adult life, I actually agree with Gavin Newsom, which really actually frightens me because I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan. But he votes no on Prop 21, as do I, or as I will. Our reasons are different, but nonetheless, a no is a no, right? So a couple of things. First, you have to realize Prop 21 is the second version of Prop 10. Last year, people in California may remember that we had a rent control on the ballot. I believe it was called Prop 10. It was resoundingly defeated, shockingly defeated, if you listen to Gavin. Something like 67% voted no. Gavin Newsom does what he always does, says, you, the California citizens, don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to create an assembly bill. I think it was 1482. And I'm going to institute the strictest rent control California has ever had statewide, which he did January 1, 2020. So sometimes I wonder why we vote, because he's just going to do what he wants to do in an assembly bill anyway, which is not what our system is made for. So very disappointing. I will never forget that he did that. He could go on to cure cancer, and I would never forget that he did that. But Prop 21 is just another version of rent control. It was created just like Prop 10 to go after what's it called? Costa. I don't know. There was something created years ago that you can't adopt rent control. But basically it just goes deeper and further into rent control. And what Gavin Newsom is saying, don't worry about it. I already got you covered. We have the strictest rent control already on the book. So this is redundant. And what Gavin is saying, and I believe as well, is it will detract from new development. We need affordable housing. And there is some language in Proposition 21 that will discourage further development, which is what he doesn't like about it. But for me, it's just another rent control. We already have it. It's Assembly Bill 1482, I believe. It started January 1, 2020. And, we are in a pandemic and rents are already going down. Like San Francisco rents are down 20% already. It's a supply-demand problem. What our legislature needs to do around real estate is trying to stop trying to legislate good behavior. They need to start removing the burden and cost of permitting and lots and all of those things. The fact that putting in a lot in California can cost anywhere from 80 to 200 grand just for permitting is ridiculous. How can you build an affordable house if once just getting the dirt right's 200 grand? It just doesn't make any sense. Our legislatures need to do their goddamn job and attack that and stop going at what they're going for is the headlines. Oh, we adopted rent control, and oh, get the greedy landlords, and oh, this, oh, that. When instead they should be lowering the cost of building. We have a supply-demand problem that does not get better with rent control. You can go back and look at rent control anywhere in the US, anywhere in Europe. And what happens with rent control over time is you lose units. Owners, like myself, can say, you know what? I no longer want to rent this as an affordable house. I will give my tenants a 60-day notice, which I have a legal ability to do. I will then spend 20, 30, 40 grand fixing it up, and then I will sell it owner occupant. What is going to happen because of the eviction moratorium, because of rent control, all of this stuff is California is going to have less single family home rentals. And it's all because our legislature have enacted rules that target greedy landlords. The greedy landlords are going to say, thank you very much. I'm going to sell them to eager home buyers. What is the hottest market today, Ty? It's home buyers.
Yep.
So great. I'll take my 40 single family homes, ask the tenants politely with a 60-day notice to leave. I'll remodel the 40 homes and then sell them owner occupant. Nothing illegal about that. But What happened? Tenants have less supply. Tenants need to go to unsafer units. Less supply means higher rent. It's just a bad recipe for tenants. They're hurting the people they want to help, when in reality, they need to lower the cost of building. Go look at that, Mr. Gavin Newsom. Come on.
Yeah, no, spot on, spot on. It's an inventory problem for sure. It's interesting too that I'm, as a landlord, obviously, just like you, I'm not a fan of rent control, and I personally believe in the free markets and just allow the fair market rents and the ebb and flow of tenant demand versus inventory and allow that to happen.
You know what's really funny about Assembly Bill 1482?
Please.
The funniest thing about 1482 is I fundamentally have to change how I treat my tenants. Let me give you an example. Before that, if you paid rent on time every year or every month for the year, I wouldn't raise your rents. It'd be zero increase. I'm happy. Now, 1482 says I have to raise rents 5% or I get behind and I can never make it up.
Right. Right.
That's amazing. 1482 benefits me, but I don't want it to. I want to reward tenants. But now, once you get behind, once you are under market, you can never catch up.
Right.
And when you're under market, it affects what? Your value and your cap rate and your net operating income. There's a huge ripple effect.
Yeah.
Again, 1482 told me I have to change how I operate and I have to raise rents every year. It's tragic. It's unfortunate.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more. And it even affects the marketability, not just the value, but the marketability, because some people, they won't buy a 2-unit or a 4-unit building because the rents haven't been increased over the last 10 years. And the rents are so low that you can just absolutely never catch them up unless you get voluntary turns.
You can't. No, that is, I have looked at several small commercials. So these were probably like 8s and 12s this year that are 30% under market.
Yep.
And given the rules of the road today, you can never catch up.
Right.
So the value is the agent tells them the value's here, but reality, the value's here. And there's a huge gap between reality because of 1482, Assembly Bill 1482.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's interesting too that from rent control, also just knowing, like here in the Bay Area, like Richmond, California has its own rent control. Oakland has its own rent control. Berkeley has its own rent control. San Francisco has its own rent control. And navigating the waters and understanding the nuances of all the different ones can really be a complete headache and nightmare versus what just the blanket of the state of California. So I couldn't agree with you more on your position here too. So
yeah, and again, rent control. This is what's going to happen in the next 12 to 36 months. We are going to have less affordable rentals in California. Correct. And it's just going to happen. And not everybody can be a home buyer. As much as we would like everybody to own a home, that's just not reality. There are lots of good reasons to be a renter. And if you suddenly take away all the single family home rentals, what's going to happen? And that's not a good story either.